Hello, welcome to Blether Together from Farmstrong, Scotland. I'm Sarah Stephen. Thanks, as always, for being with us. This time we've got an introduction, a bit of a primer to a really brilliant programme being offered by Farmstrong called Foundations of Mental Strength, or FoMS. FoMS is a series of workshops that explore how personal experience shapes our approach to farming and life. Areas like self-awareness, adapting to challenges, and keeping a clear head to manage business decisions. We're joined for this episode by Kirsty Ritchie from mental health consultancy Mind and Mission. Kirsty was a big part of developing the FoMS programme, bespoke for Farmstrong, in response to findings from our recent surveys.
Psychologically, we respond to discomfort, we respond to difficulty in the same way, regardless of the industry we work in.
And we'll have Emily Grant, a former farmer who's recently become a crofter, as we'll hear. Emily runs a consultancy helping mostly beef and sheep farmers improve their systems, which of course relies on a clear head and good mental health.
Successful businesses are predominantly about people, their thought processes, their drivers, their purpose behind the business.
Emily is also part of the team delivering FoMS workshops around Scotland. There's lots of great advice in this chat, as well as background on the FoMS programme. Get onto the Farmstrong Scotland website to find out how to sign up and book in sessions. But not before you've had a listen to this fab chat with Emily and Kirsty. Kirsty, where are you coming from?
I'm in Edinburgh.
Is that home for you?
It is home for me, yeah. Originally from the Borders, but I've been in Edinburgh. I'm a half and halfer. That's what I call myself now. I've half my life in Edinburgh. I won't divulge how many years, but more than 2 decades.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And Emily, what about yourself? Where are you from today?
I'm today sat just halfway between Aviemore and Nethybridge. So recently moved up here from Perthshire, actually.
Okay, how's the move gone?
Moving farm is challenging. But relieved, and also we're temporarily in a static whilst we do a house build. So I've suddenly shrunk a large space into a small one, which is, challenging, but all good. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you're living in a static caravan while you build a house?
Yeah.
Well, I take my hat off to you. That is a gutsy move.
Thank you.
Well done for just making it today.
I know.
Yes. And here were we complaining about your Wi-Fi. Emily, I'm just really interested to know why the move?
My other half is originally from this neck of the woods. He's from Strathspey. So he'd always been keen to come back north, and he worked full-time off the farm before. So he'd, luckily for him, managed to take early retirement. So a move. And also the farm we were on wasn't a family farm, so we don't have that bind probably that a lot of people have on the farms we're on. So we've bought an amazing croft. So I've become a crofter, and it literally is stunning. So really looking forward to the project. It'll be worth it in the end. Ask me in the middle of winter if I'm happy in a static.
I was going to say that. Have you got a good wood burner somewhere in there as well?
That might happen yet.
Well, that's a really brave and bold move. So well done. That sounds an exciting project. I wish you all the best with it. So, ladies, it's lovely to have you on the programme. It's a double header. It's a female double header today, which is a first, I think, on the podcast. I tend to start these chats with a rapid fire question round. I've just got a whole list of questions in front of me and I randomly pick them. So let's see where it goes. Right. We'll just do it alternatively. Kirsty, I'll start with you since you're at the top of my screen. What's the first thing you did this morning?
Oh, terrible. I checked my phone, and it's the one thing I teach everyone else not to do.
Emily, are you in a profession you dreamed of when you were a child?
No, I dreamed of being a vet. I'm not far, but I wanted to be a vet.
Kirsty, what is your favourite way to waste time?
Oh, I've just got a bit of a thing for creative. So I do paint by numbers, crochet, knitting. Yeah.
Wow. Emily, if you could go back to any age, what age would that be?
Loved late 20s.
Kirsty, what is one thing you would like to do in the next year?
See this programme evolve.
Emily, is your bed made right now?
Actually, it is.
In the caravan.
I know. I'm surprised at myself, Sarah.
You're still house pride.
No, it's more as visible. There's a back window.
Yeah, so it's what the neighbours think. That's what you're telling me. Well, ladies, thank you very much. It's just a bit of a rapid fire question round, but do you think as women, as females, we sometimes overthink things?
I was just about to say, let me think about that. Do we overthink? I believe women prepare a lot. We anticipate a lot. So if I was to maybe reframe overthinking, I would say we tend to anticipate more as women.
Yes, I suppose what you're saying is that as a term, it's developed a negative connotation, overthinking.
Yeah, potentially. Certainly in my work, certainly that term suggests too much thinking about the wrong things potentially, rather than thinking about the right things.
Yeah, and I suppose as women, everybody's different. I appreciate that, but when we say overthinking, it's probably because we're trying to excuse ourselves, aren't we? Or say we're self-deprecating. Oh, sorry, I think too much about it. Or so we're always trying to excuse, but sometimes how we think and how we approach things. Emily, I don't know if you what your mindset is on that.
I think I would just 100% agree with Kirsty. I think there needs to be that clarity between overthinking and being prepared. And I'm a big one for that need to have that preparation, to be thinking ahead. So, yeah, is it always overthinking? I don't know. I suppose it's in a way, and for me, it's just that trying to have that clarity. And maybe it also comes from a slight people-pleasing thing that even with this, I want to be prepared in what I want to say so that ideally I have some clarity around it. And whether or not, I mean, is that unique to women? I don't know. Kirsty will know better, but I've strong suspicion that it does. That's my gut feeling, and my gut feeling about myself as well. And I know other women too who are very similar.
Yeah, I see it varies, and to be fair, a lot more men are coming for therapy. The percentage is climbing higher. Interesting that you say there, we're actually psychologically and maybe even biologically pre-programmed to try to control our lives. So anticipating, preparing, it is about control. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all, because control means comfort, and we crave comfort. We try to avoid discomfort at all costs. So the need for control, the need for anticipating, this overthinking comes from the need to avoid difficulty.
Yeah, so a very simple term like overthinking, and you've expanded it there. Again, there's always a negative connotation, isn't it, to being told, or you're trying to control things too much, or people often say you're a control freak. It doesn't ever come across as a compliment, does it?
No.
But I think, that's great. That could be a superpower as well. The fact that that there's reliability there. I think sometimes, I suppose you're flipping it, aren't you, for a more positive.
It's a good question to ask yourself, to what extent am I trying to control everything, and to what extent am I able to tolerate discomfort? Because that's what we have to do in life, is know that not everything is comfortable and we can't control everything. So to what extent am I able to tolerate it, the discomfort, and to what extent am I able to control outcomes? And that's a rest of your life, 24/7 process. That's not I wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden I know how to manage and control my life. That's a lot of what I work with individuals, is understanding that as a concept, that we're not here to be fixed. We're here to understand and to live. And, I guess from a Farmstrong perspective, live well as we can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Kirsty, a bit of context for the listeners is that you're the founder of Mind and Mission, a mental health consultancy set up to improve mental fitness at home and in workplaces through counselling and professional coaching. And obviously, you've alluded to it there. So you were part of the team that devised FoMS, the Foundations of Mental Health programme for Farmstrong. Tell me a bit about how you got involved and why you got involved.
I first heard about Farmstrong Scotland almost 3 years ago now. I had to look back because it doesn't seem that long ago at all. One of the participants of a programme that Mind and Mission was involved in 2022, Be Your Best Self programme for women in agriculture. One of the participants got in touch, and I think she had been involved in the initial launch. And because she'd been a participant in the Be Your Best Self programme and really, really got something out of that, she thought we would be ideal to start to have a conversation with Farmstrong. And at that point, it was really, I think Alex had just come on board. It was exploratory. It was a conversation to see if our minds were in the same place. It turns out they were very much in the same place. And it evolved from there. Alex and I have caught up regularly since then. And then it was last year where, clearly Farmstrong Scotland relies on funding. Funding is a key part. And it was only really when the funding was there were we able to put solid plans in place and really start to refine and understand what it was we wanted to build.
And Emily, I know you're one of the people who's sort of helping to deliver the FoMS programme. Just tell me a little bit about how the actuality of that, how you became involved as well and what you're doing sort of on that basis.
Yeah, I suppose Alex had asked if I would be interested in helping. And I suppose because it's actually quite a nice fit with, I do quite a bit of consultancy work, but also facilitation work. So working with groups of farmers who are looking to make change in their business or to have more sustainable businesses. So it's one thing that we don't do probably well enough in farming and in what we would term as our knowledge exchange programs and things, is that we'll often talk about improving efficiency or improving production and the need to become more profitable by those things. But actually, I think the key part we've been missing is actually, our farms and our croft businesses are really, they're a collection of assets, a collection of resources, and within there are the people who run the business. So successful businesses are predominantly about people, really, and how people run the businesses and their thought processes, their drivers, their purpose behind the business, all fundamentally comes from them. So it's really important and valuable to have a program like this that really helps people to start to think about themselves a bit and what they offer and how they cope with challenging times, because there's always challenging times in any business. But yeah, it's just really valuable to slot it into where we need Scottish Ag to be heading, because it's pretty challenging out there and those challenges aren't immediately going to go away. And just tying that back into the wellbeing, if you're in a positive place, you're more likely to make good decisions on the farm, in the business.
Listeners will be very familiar with us talking about surveys and engaging with Farmstrong Scotland and help us by filling in a survey. And there's always a survey that we can fill in. Whatever we do in life, there's always feedback surveys and things. And we're always encouraged to do it, whatever experience we have along the way. And this has been very much designed with sort of in response to survey findings. How did that come about and what was the impact of them?
Farmstrong Scotland, and I'll say that I was previously a board member for Farmstrong. So a key part of that programme is that what's delivered is evidence-based and also what people feel that they need. So every year Farmstrong will undertake a survey. So please, if you get asked to do a survey, you see it on socials, please do it, because it's so valuable that the programme itself can be evidence-informed and that Farmstrong are delivering really what people feel that they need in order to make a difference to themselves and to their lives. So this is where really this programme came out from, was on the back of that research and what people felt that they thought that they needed, and looking for new tools to help have better wellbeing outcomes, but also just to help business. And I think that's this real positive of Farmstrong, and where it sits quite uniquely is that it does tie itself quite closely to the business and the positive impacts that good wellbeing can have. It backs up what we also know generally across and actually across various parts of the country and even across the world, is that wellbeing levels are lower generally in farming. It is stressful, there are challenges. So it's about helping to adopt that. But also the latest research from Farmstrong also showed that 80% of those people who had actually engaged with Farmstrong felt a real benefit from being whatever that engagement was. So it's just starting to build on what Farmstrong can deliver to really, really help people.
I mean, Kirsty, how do you even go about building a programme like that? What's the first step in that process?
So I guess the original conversation that Alex and I had was very general. We had a walk around the Royal Highland Centre, and that gets your juices flowing anyway. We went round and round and round for about an hour and a half. It's great.
Was that during the Highland Show by any chance, or just on a random?
It wasn't. It was actually when there was nothing else there, which was incredible because I'd never been before, and it was completely empty. I guess the conversation that Alex and I had, from our perspective at Mind and Mission, understanding and protecting our mental health isn't meant to be scary. It's not meant to be scary. It's not meant to be confusing. It's not meant to be difficult. And that is our philosophy. And it turned out Alex thought similarly as well, in terms of how do we deliver something that is easy to understand, and most important, relatable and relevant to everyday life. That really was the core of where we started talking about it. And also to build something that every participant could use in some way. I guess the key for me was, and this might sound controversial, it didn't start with a focus on farming. So although Alex and I had a very long conversation around farming, around everything that Emily has described there that comes out of the survey, it always starts with people. It starts with individuals. Psychologically, we respond to discomfort. We respond to difficulty in the same way, regardless of the industry we work in, regardless of the external or internal pressures that we have. What we demonstrate as an organisation is that the core learning starts with the individual. It's about the individual. And the evolution that comes afterwards, we had three iterations of the programme. So the first core part was around what is the core learning that everyone needs to be able to relate to. So that was the core part. We had the base programme. We then had a practice session with a couple of the board and Alex and other people, and we started tailoring from there. So it was, we have our core programme. How do we then start to infuse all of our understanding around farming, crofting, the industry, the struggles, what people are going through, and start to factor that in? We then had a pilot, which Emily was at as well, and that was then we further refined. We sort of sliced and diced it, added some parts together and changed it up again. So we were sort of 3 iterations in, and that's when the tailoring then and the layering of all of the examples and everything that we understand that is difficult or challenging about farming and crofting, that was layered into the programme. So it doesn't start with the industry and farming and crofting per se, but the result is the layering and the sort of dovetailing all of that in happens through the final iterations. And I think what we came up with was something really highly relatable to everyone.
And Emily, tell me about your involvement in the pilot.
That was more, it was having a day with the Farmstrong team and with Kirsty, and just really going through about how to deliver these things. And as Kirsty says as well, just making it relevant. It's really important. Is if we were to advertise this as a specific meeting without it being really well tailored, it's the kind of thing that might need a little bit of a push to get farmers to attend as a standalone unit. Although I would say that obviously since Farmstrong's been around, and I think it's much easier and people are more open at talking about themselves and their well-being. But it's so important, and that's what even early research in Farmstrong showed, that people have to see that it's relevant into their day-to-day, because I'm sure that some of Kirsty's work will be covering other kinds of businesses, and it might be, if you're feeling a bit under stress, take a walk at lunchtime, switch off the emails, and they're just not the kind of little bits of advice or pointers that are really relevant to farming. And I think because farming is so unique, and also I suppose we often work with families rather than colleagues, and to tailor it just gives it the relevance, which means that people will take so much more away from it. So that was really the purpose of that pilot, as Kirsty suggests, is just really finessing it so that can get it as good as possible.
And given your business, your line of work, Emily, what changes have you noticed in people's, farmers, crofters, people that work in that sector, their openness to engaging in this subject?
Yeah, I think there's a real change now. I suppose there's recognition that we need to acknowledge it, that, we need to look after our well-being, and, to be applauded industry-wide that it is good to talk about it. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to be in challenging times. It's okay to go and log on to Farmstrong website and just have a look at tips. And, I was just speaking to somebody the other day who said, just end of lambing was just really struggling, but she loved, it was actually Jock Gibson's blog about it. And she said it just hit a chord because she felt exactly the same way. So it's just really good to have the industry recognising that, if we talk about it, we're more aware of it. We can lose the stigma, basically, about talking about wellbeing.
And, what do organisations and groups need to do if they want to register their interest, if they want to take part in the programme?
There's a place on the website to go and register interest. And I think the Farmstrong team are active trying to get this out. And as I said, it actually fits quite nicely into where there's existing meetings or discussion groups, or even things like Monitor Farms, where there's already groupings of farmers coming together or crofters coming together, because you can take pieces of the programme out. So if there is only a short period of time to be allocated within other meetings, then can just focus on one or two things or make it wider as and when people require. So I think if anybody out there is keen, and even just to find out more, but just to see if they are part of a group that maybe would love to have a go, is just get in touch with the Farmstrong team and go onto the website first will be best way to find out more.
Thanks, Emily. It's maybe the wrong time to ask, but given the fact that you've moved, you're living in a static caravan, you're building a house, how happy are you at the moment? I mean, if you had the barometer, where are you on the sort of well-being barometer?
Yeah, well-being barometer's pretty good, I think. 7, 8 out of 10. Making this change, and I think making any change is challenging, whatever that change looks like, and in a way this is kind of as a business, but it's also a personal change. And I've spoken to groups about change management. So I've been on the other side of saying, like, look, if you're making change, you need to have clarity about what that change is. You need to plan it a bit. You need to be prepared for, we've got a chart of, it's like the roller coaster of where you think you're making, we're doing really, really well. And then boom, something happens and you kind of go, not going to plan. We need to regroup. Where are we? And to be fair, that probably sums up the last, when we actually bought this place late summer, but there are so many plates spinning. So it feels like a very different part of the business, whereas previously it was livestock, sheep, and dealing with that on a day-to-day. So there are lots of plates spinning, but eyes on the prize. The goal is what keeps you going, because it's, like I said, honestly, I pinch myself every day. Where we are is stunningly beautiful, and the opportunity that we have to build a house is huge. It's amazing. So eyes on the prize. It's definitely what keeps you going.
But I'm just wondering how much thought, consideration do you give daily to your mental, emotional and physical well-being? Is there something, do you have habits? Is there something you do every day just to know I've done that I know that when I do that, I feel so much better?
It's so funny because one of the big things for me is just walking the dogs. So they're slightly redundant at the moment because we've no stock at the moment, but 2 lovely sheepdogs. And just even doing that, just taking that time.
Time and again in the podcast, when I ask that question, it is often the simple acts that people get the most pleasure from. So a walk on the beach, a walk with the dog, and it's invariably not the big things that you might think people need to do every day to make a difference?
Yeah, and I guess, I'd love listening to Emily. She's just so positive, and
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing to listen. And I just love when you just eyes on the prize, thinking about the goal. And I'm thinking, it's almost like you've done the programme, Emily.
Yeah.
For me, I was thinking about what Emily was describing there, and I was thinking, oh, what do I do? And I think about what I give myself permission for. So I give myself permission to stop. I give myself permission if I have a high client load. I know that evening it's going to be tough because I've got a lot on my shoulders and I've got a lot to process, and I probably need a little bit of supervision to be able to work it through. So it's about giving myself permission to not have to be 110% on it every single minute of every single day. And I find that really helps, is just going, it's okay. You're not feeling it right now. That's all right. You can sit down and you can not do something, and you don't have to feel any guilt or shame about that. So I find that really works. And I like when you said there about it feels clear, it's simple things. And that is the point about the programme as well. This is not about making it complicated and making it difficult to understand or making it inaccessible. It is about being able to show people who they are at their core and help them go, that's why I've done that all my life. That's why I respond in that way. That makes so much sense. Now I can think slightly differently. I don't feel that there's this weight on my shoulders. I don't feel as heavy, or that decision wasn't as difficult because I know something different now. And that's the point. It's simplicity at its best. It's helping people know that.
I'm sure it doesn't matter at what stage in life that you do know that, Kirsty, but I suppose a lot of the contributors that I speak to tend to be of an age where they're reflecting. And I often think it's a shame that it didn't happen, 10 or 20 years before that, because it takes a long time to sort of feel comfortable in your own skin and know what you're doing. And often it's later in life, isn't it, that people then take the time and even thinking of the younger generation of farmers, male and female, coming through, who are perhaps more on it in that respect.
I think life's full of chapters. When you're growing up and everyone's saying midlife crisis, and you're kind of like, what is that? And things. But when you're in your 20s, 30s, you have the energy, and I'm going to talk about this from a business point of view as well. You have the energy to really drive a business and really make change to a business. Things then change in life as you move through your 30s into 40s. And I think it's once you hit 50s, you are a bit more comfortable in your skin. You do reflect more. And I mean, a little bit of background is we started the farm that we were in before, and kind of repeating, because actually we bought bare land and also built a house. Yeah, well, we bought the farm over 25 years ago and built a house on that property and built that business up. And our attitude to this now is very different because we're in that reflective stage of life. And also the realization, particularly in farming and livestock farming, is it's very physical, and you get to an age where physically you know that you need to adapt within the farm because you're just getting knackered and you have old injuries and things. So what would I have told myself when I was in my 20s, late 20s, and we were setting up that part of the farm? It's just, take that time and opportunity, have a breath, factor in that time away from the farm and all those other things. I know it's really, really hard to do, but take that advice. And this is where Farmstrong's really good, because I think people are a lot more aware of that now. Is like, don't sock yourself into the ground because of it. Because you want to look back on life and think, do you know what? We had a really good balance between business and life.
Kirsty, do you think there's that generational point of difference?
Absolutely. As a woman in our 50s as well, I completely changed my career in my 40s. I was an accountant for 25 years. So I really want to reframe the term midlife crisis, because I don't see it as a crisis. I see it as maybe a reframe, or I don't know, maybe I'll try and come up with some different word and make it go viral. I don't know. But it just feels like it's not a crisis anymore. It is a reflection point. It's a chance to look back, a chance to know ourselves better, and a chance to move forward in a way that helps us to live well. What I tend to find, people coming to the therapy space, they first come around 30. So after their prefrontal cortex is completely developed, they have their first sort of crisis around 30, start questioning life and future and everything else. And then in another 10 years, when the next sort of question or moment in life hits, there's another space there for reflection. But I genuinely believe, and this is not about me sitting here going, you must do the Foundations of Mental Strength programme, but I fundamentally believe and get so excited about anyone who is interested in self-awareness and knowing themselves. And the programme actually starts with a quote, and I think it was Aristotle who said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And I look back and think, if I had started with that wisdom in my 20s or my 30s, I don't know where my life would be now. Maybe I'd be doing exactly the same thing. I've no idea. But I get excited about the possibility of others knowing themselves at a younger age. I say it doesn't really matter what age you realise the things you realise. But there's something about our age and experience, and maybe we're only supposed to be who we are when we get the experience to be who we are and who we're going to be.
So celebrate the age and stage we're at then. That's ultimately what you're saying. We can't go back, Emily, can we?
There is a bit of that. And, again, we could get really deep talking about regrets and all of that. But there is an element of, when you understand who you are now, there is a freedom and a power in being able to then make decisions that really you see the fruits of your labour. You really start to see how you can live better when you know yourself.
Well, it's a lovely message to end on, Kirsty. And in a sentence, Emily, just for you to finish off, one sentence, two sentences, just tell, why people should, if they can and they're open to get involved in this programme.
I suppose Kirsty alluded to it, and I've not been involved in a full programme, like this, but certainly even in facilitation when we are working with farmer groups about their business and really absolutely try and get them to pin down and understand, as Kirsty says, it's that self-awareness thing, and about how people, if you understand yourself and how you operate, you can avoid your blind spots, you can overcome some of your biases. And I think people genuinely may find that it does change their lives a little bit, or hopefully a lot, and that it maybe gives them clarity, it maybe gives them a bit more direction. And I just think, just give it a go, because you've got absolutely nothing to lose, probably a lot to gain. And as I said, I think genuinely this has been one of the missing parts, and this is why I'm excited about it. We get a lot of funding comes in, particularly government funding and things, coming in for knowledge exchange and, as I said, improving production or efficiency and things. But actually, sometimes if we just stop and hold a mirror a little bit, and so because people are businesses are driven by people, and if we have that little mirror to ourselves, again, okay, so this is how I work within a business, or even just this is what I want out of life. I think there's a little bit for everyone in this program that Kirsty's helped develop.
Thank you, Emily. And so to all our listeners, there's more information on the FoMS programme, the Foundations of Mental Health programme, on the Farmstrong website. Well, ladies, I think my takeaways from today are that I'm not an overthinker. I'm not a control freak. And, midlife crisis. What's that?
Yeah, no such thing.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. That's it, isn't it?
Being a grown-up is really hard. and I think this programme, it sets you up to make better decisions about your farm, your croft, about your health, your well-being, about your relationships, about the future, about life. It's about protecting your energy, protecting your happiness. Less hassle, less stress, more balance. And I think that's what came out of the survey, doesn't it? That people want more balance. I think this can give them it.
Well, Kirsty, thank you very much. Well said. The final word to you, Kirsty and Emily. Thank you very much for joining me today. It's a beautiful day outside, so I think we should all go out there and enjoy it if we can.
Thank you very much.
And have that dog walk.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Huge thanks to Kirsty Ritchie and Emily Grant. Find Farmstrong Scotland online, farmstrongscotland.org.uk. You'll find info there about the Foundations of Mental Strength programme, how to book and what it involves. You'll also see that At a Glance How's It Going tool, a brilliant, easy way to check in on your well-being. See you next time.